Hey, this is Jay Holland. This is Guided by Faith, and we are continuing to walk through the book of Proverbs. Today is, at least if you're listening as they're coming out, we're talking July 29th. So we are in Proverbs chapter 29. Hope you've enjoyed this. We've got just a couple of days left in the month, but we'll finish out Proverbs all through this week. Today, our devotion is Proverbs chapter 29, verse 7. A righteous man knows the rights of the poor. A wicked man does not understand such knowledge. So let's just think about that for a minute. It says, a righteous man knows the rights of the poor. A wicked man does not understand such knowledge. So what in the world does that mean? First off, when you think about the biblical concept of righteousness, there's a couple of different ways that we could talk about righteousness. One way of righteousness is being like perfectly right, sinless. And, the Bible says that there's none righteous, no, not one. But that concept of righteousness in the Bible is not just simply like a state of sinlessness, a state of like, I've never done wrong things. Oftentimes in the Bible, when it's talking about righteousness, it's talking about doing right things, okay? So I can't claim to be righteous if I sit on the sidelines and watch injustice happen. I can't claim to be righteous if I know the right thing to do and don't do it. If I see somebody that I can help and I don't help them. And this proverb says, a righteous man knows the rights of the poor, and a wicked man does not understand such knowledge. So I think in that understanding, part of it is, there are people who think that some people are actually just more valuable than others, right? That because of your status, because of your money, because of your family line, because of your race, that you have more value. And that's just patently not true. Our value is based on whose we are and who made us. Genesis 1:27 said, God made man in his own image. In the image of God, he made them. Male and female, he made them. So men and women created as the apex of God's creation in the image of God. That's the highest value you could possibly have. Now, if you have $1 or $1 million in your pocket, how does that change that value? It doesn't. And so if you have all equal value, like biblically speaking, we have equal rights. And as a matter of fact, this was the concept that the United States government was formed on, that all men are created equal and they're endowed with a creator, certain inalienable rights. Okay, so not those who are born with property, not those who are born with family titles, not those who are born with skin color. And admittedly, in the United States, there's a long history of not getting this right. But I think the core concept is very biblical, that we are created equal. So how does this apply to us? Well, I think this applies in this way. Number one, God calls us to care about justice and to pay attention to people that others ignore. Now, I admit when I look at the news, when I look at stuff going on in the world around social media, I feel convicted and I feel paralyzed in a lot of ways. You may look at stuff happening in Russia and Ukraine or Israel and Gaza, or, recently we had these floodings in Texas. There's so much terrible stuff happening. And it can be overwhelming and it can be paralyzing. I just don't know, aside from like, Lord, help them. I don't even know how to pray for some of these situations. But around me in my actual world are actual people who are down and out, who are people that are ostracized. There's people in your school that don't have the status, that don't have the credibility. And it's interesting because one of the things that I always encourage people when they're dating or considering somebody to date, this is one of the things that I will tell them. If you're looking at who you might be interested in dating, one of the things that you need to pay attention to is how do they treat the person that they have nothing to gain from? Not how do they treat you, because they might be putting on their best front for you at this time because you're like the prize to be caught in the moment. But at some point, they're not going to have anything left to gain out of you. And they're going to go to their default nature and character. And so watch and see, how do they treat the person that they have nothing to gain from? Because ultimately that's who they are and that's how they'll treat. But it's worth asking yourself, how do I treat people that I have nothing to gain from? It could be the kids in church that are a little bit harder to get along with. Could be the adults in my life that are just annoying and a little extra grace required. This is convicting for me as I talk about it. Like we all have these people in our life. But do I recognize their value? Do I make time for them? Do I make provision for them as I can? The reality is biblical righteousness is not just private. It's compassion lived out in a real world. And so as we close today, I would encourage you, ask God to open your eyes for what's actually in front of you. Break your heart for the things that are within your sphere of being able to be the hands and feet of Jesus. Sometimes that means closing off your media stream, your social media stream, all of the news of the world, because it can just be paralyzing. There's too much bad news. You can't do anything about it. But there's something locally you can do. There's something very personal you can do. There's somebody in your life that you can care for and touch. A righteous man knows the rights of the poor, whether that's poor in finances, poor in spirit, poor in other ways. And you want to be a righteous person, you want to do what's right in the eyes of God. And a lot of times doing what's right starts with asking God to open your eyes and show you, and then just give you the courage and conviction to follow through. And so that's my encouragement to me today, my encouragement to you, and I hope you do it. It's good to talk to you. I look forward to talking again tomorrow.